The following program contains views that are not those of WVTC, iNetworks Communications, their subsidiaries, affiliates, or financial supporters.
Hey, y'all. Good God. Morning, afternoon. You have tuned in to Solutions Radio Show. I am one of your hosts, Corey Wright.
And I am your host, Anita Smith. Welcome. Y'all better come on in here today.
Come on in here. Come on.
We got some powerful things we're going to talk about today. You want to tell them what we're talking about?
Today, we are talking about the letting go part of forgiveness. We are definitely talking about that. It is such a powerful thing, and we know that letting go is the essential part of forgiveness. Without letting go, forgiveness doesn't work. But we know, as always, we know what the problems are. We know we need to solve them. What we offer on this platform is solutions, dedicated acts of action that bring about true change, not just talking about change, and no excuses for excuses are man's tools of incompetence that build bridges to nowhere and monuments of nothing. Broadcasting live from the WVTC radio and TV network. People of God, I am so excited about what is happening, and we are about to go to a whole nother level.
Yeah, it's time. When we talked about today's show, I said I'm calling it Forgive and Flow. We're really gonna break down the real process of forgiveness, not a quick fix kind, but the soul cleansing, heart freeing kind. We're gonna get down to the bottom of how to really forgive and let go, and if that's even possible, right?
And that's a very hard thing to do when we think about forgive and forget. Well, not necessarily forget, but we're talking about the parts of that you realize that something happened. You want it to be acknowledged. You want people to understand what they did. And a lot of times it's that emotional place that you want people to feel that they can't, because they didn't live it, but or they didn't really understand the damage that it caused going through what you went through.
Yeah.
So let me first ask you, beautiful co-host, what is forgiveness to you and what is letting go? What is the difference between the two?
So for me, forgiveness is the gift that I give myself. So I'm not bound by the pain that somebody else caused. And letting go is when I stop rehearsing the hurt in my head every day. I don't need an apology to forgive, but I do need to have some clarity to let go. And sometimes the clarity that I need is just simply that I deserve peace.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now, what is letting go to you?
Well, letting go to me is for peace. It's something that I need to have within me. I know some people think letting go is, for the other person, an outward manifestation. But for me, letting go is something that happens inside of me. It's something that even if the other person, never says, I'm sorry, even if they don't care that they hurt me, even if they never ask me to forgive them, just being able to say, you know what, I deserve better than this. And I deserve to have freedom. So for me, letting go is freedom.
Okay. Well, let me give you my point of view, and I'm just,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I'm just making sure everybody got the show, because I'm gonna really get deep today in what I think. And first of all, let me open up with what is the difference between forgiveness and letting go. We got to understand that it's not the same. Forgiveness and letting go is different. And letting go, we only work on ourselves and do not get rid of the people in the space. Let me first understand about letting go. We only get rid of the people in the space, but we don't get rid of ourselves.
Mhm.
I want to say that right, because forgiveness extends beyond the personal liberation. But why do people have personal liberation? Why they want to feel they be liberated from something? Because they want people to understand that something happened, and a lot of times the resentment and animosity towards them being caused harm doesn't let them go.
Yeah.
Forgiveness to them is just moving from one spot to another, but what lingers on goes to every new place.
Okay.
While both forgiveness and letting go involve releasing negative emotions, forgiveness is a conscious, often relational act of releasing anger, resentment towards a person, while letting go is the eternal process of releasing the emotional pain, moving forward, regardless of the other person's actual accountability. When we look at the point of forgiveness, I'm letting that person off.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm letting that person go. I'm realizing you did this, but there is an emotional pain.
Okay.
There is could be something that was taken from us. It could be something that we hurt. It could be devastating consequences that happen to us.
Yeah.
And even though we have subconsciously forgiven that person, we want people to understand we experienced something bad.
Yeah. I like how you make that distinction, because here's how I explain it to people that I talk to and people that I work with. I say that letting go is for peace, but forgiveness is for freedom.
Mm.
So I feel like one quiets your spirit, but the other lifts the weight off of it. Because not letting go is like having a weight on your shoulders. And so you don't have to do both of those things at the same time, because sometimes one can happen without the other. One can happen first, one could come later. But at the end of the day, until you get in sync with both, then it's going to negatively affect your life and how you show up and how you show up in relationships, and even sometimes who you draw to you.
Do you think that there are offenses that is impossible to forgive?
No, because you know what? Again, I view forgiveness as the gift I give myself. So what can somebody do to hurt me that says I'm invaluable? I think what people do to you says more about them than it says about you. So if somebody does me so wrong, a very, very egregious, significant hurt that they try to cause me, then that says to me they got problems. They have some issues, and it's no self-reflection on me if I choose to decide to walk away. I can choose and say up front, you know what, I'm gonna forgive you, but that doesn't mean my process is over. It's still a process to be had, because me saying I forgive you, that could still mean I'm mad as hell. I'm angry. I still have to go through the process to get to some healing. But I can first choose to say, I'm going to let you go, and then take the time I need to work through the emotions of what that did and what it left behind.
Let me tell people the origin of the show, why I wanted to do the letting go of the process of forgiveness, is because I did a radio show some years ago with a friend of mine who in high school was tortured by this other girl. Yeah. She was beat up constantly. She was humiliated. This other girl was a gangbanger. You know, she just loved to pick on her. This girl jumped on her, beat her up before prom so she can go, everybody laughing at her, looking the way she did and beat up. And she tortured her for 4 years. And she graduated. The girl took up a lot of therapy. She did great for her life. And one day downtown, now she ran into the bully almost 30 years later.
Okay.
And they're downtown in front of a restaurant. And the girl that bullied her is not the same lady anymore. She actually found God. She's a good person. And she's seen the girl, and the girl seen her. She was going up there to apologize to her, but then she got a heart attack. She went into cardio arrest. And it wasn't nothing but standing there but her and the lady. And for a moment, the lady blanked out. And all she seen was the bully dying.
Oh, wow.
And she never helped her. And the lady died. Wow. And, you know, you can't, under the Samaritan law, but she really, honestly, by the time she realized that this was a woman that was 30-some years later, the person was dead. Yeah. And even though she went through therapy, even though she never let it go. And all she seen was the demon. So now her family is upset, saying, this is a great woman of God, everything, but you don't know what your mother did to this woman. And they were all on my show and they was angry. And I'm like, well, you know, she said, I blacked out. I didn't see this woman who's a woman of God, who's a grandmother, who has all these kids. All I seen was a bully,
you know why?
Who beat me bad. You know and why? When I finally felt like I'm watching this evil person die, and I'm watching it, and she said, for a minute, I was 16.
You know why? Because one of the things that unforgiveness leaves behind is resentment. And she carried that resentment for all those years. And that's why she didn't have the heart for that woman as a person, because she still resented her. She had unforgiveness in her heart. And that is the danger of not letting go. You know, so I look at it like this. Forgiveness is about releasing the person. Letting go is releasing the pain. Right? So when you release the pain, you no longer have to have those feelings of resentment. You can actually, even if you wanted to, move forward with a more authentic and better relationship with the person than you possibly would have had before. You know, I remember there was this woman that I was coaching one time, and I was talking to her, and she was talking about how much resentment that she had towards her sister for over a decade, over 10 years, because she felt that her sister had betrayed her. And she held on to that resentment. But once she made the decision to actually forgive her sister, not by excusing her sister's actions, because the actions were unexcusable, but she learned to forgive because she decided, I'm going to free myself emotionally from this pain. So I'm going to forgive, but I'm also going to let go. I'm going to release the pain. And once she was able to do that, she was actually able to go and reconnect with her sister in a much more honest and healthy way. So it was never going to be okay, the betrayal that her sister did 10 years ago. But when you realize that forgiveness and letting go isn't just as much an inward process as it is an outward process, you can move forward.
And I understood the madness of her kids because, you know, but what she said on my show that, you know, you don't know the damage we do. And we have to understand in life that consequences, you know, I asked the Lord why I couldn't let it go. He said, because it was important time in my life. It happened to be my birthday. And wow, that's Prophet Evangelist Stevenson. That's powerful. And her kids was mad. And I had to, you know, I'm like, I understand your frustrations. And the lady was she's a good person. She was hurt. She said that as a kid, she felt so hopeless. She had no brothers, no sisters. Her mom was poor, couldn't move out of school. And, you know, but I told them this, and they didn't want to agree with me, that your evil actions or actions has a consequence. Nobody thought what she was doing to this girl would catch up to her 30 years later, but she watched her die. Her family then was ready to, they were upset. Well, you did this, you did that, you could have did that. And she was like, I'm sorry.
The reality of that situation that makes it so sad is she could have even tried to help, and she still could have died. She could have called 911 and the woman still could have died. She could have tried to do first aid and she still could have died. Yeah. And so here, once again, people are attracted to likeness, right? She didn't forgive all those years and she had that resentment. And now that has been transferred to this woman's children and this woman's family. But at the end of the day, everybody has to work towards that. It's not going to be, maybe they're not going to just not be mad all of a sudden because their mom is passed. But as time goes by, it's like an onion. You have to start to just peel back layer by layer by layer and do the work.
And this is what she said that really blew me away was she said, because if y'all looking at my shirt said I was made by the struggle, that what I went through made me. She says that was the first time that she felt empowered. And she never said, I seen the lady. She never said her name. She said, I seen the bully dying. And for a moment, I was 16, 17 years old. And I felt like she was getting what she deserved for all she did to me, which was not right.
That's a gentle reminder to everyone who is hearing this. And if you are experiencing something similar like that in your life, it's a gentle reminder that you can do one without the other at first. But over time, those two things, forgiveness and letting go, they work together to free both your heart and your mind. You know, if you free in your heart, but your mind is not free, it's gonna continue to like be a cancer in your life. It's gonna negatively infest everything you do. And you don't get to choose and you don't get to decide what areas that's gonna impact you, because it's gonna impact every area of your life until you deal with it. And I like that comment on Facebook. Prophetic evangelist Stevenson was saying she asked the Lord, why couldn't she let it go? And he spoke to her heart and he told her because it was an important time of her life, and that there was a time and a purpose for everything. So it may not happen right away, but it can happen over time. And I think that I would say to you, Evangelist Stevenson, is that you can let go. And you can do it even if they never apologize, because that's the power. Mm-hmm. That's the power, is realizing that you can let go and you don't need them. And I'm gonna give you a real life example of that.
Come on.
What if, like in that situation, the woman is now dead? She's gone. Now what? Who still has the negative feelings inside? Mm-hmm. Who still is hurt? You. If you don't let it go, the person could be dead and gone, but you're the one carrying it. It's hurting you. It's not hurting them. So that ought to tell you that the forgiveness and the letting go isn't for them. It's for you. And that's why God requires us to forgive. Okay? Because if not, it's almost like you're sinning against yourself with unforgiveness. And it's not easy. Lord knows we are all human, mm-hmm. and it's not a magic pill or science to this thing. But this is something that we have to really, really reflect and look in the mirror and ask ourselves these questions and, challenge ourselves to just say, you know what, I release this pain. I release this negativity. I release this resentment. I release this hurt. I release the anger. That's the letting go of that pain. And you can do that first. You can forgive first, but it's up to you. But it's time to start making some choices and decisions in your life.
Both of them are important, but the most important to me is letting go, mm-hmm. because here it is. This lady thought she let go, but it didn't let go, and it cost somebody their life. Yeah, and she has to live with that for the rest of her life. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that When we look at the letting go part of it, you know, especially things that happens as a kid, because most leading therapists believe that a childhood is trauma anyway, because it is a position in your life where you're the powerless. So when something tragic happened to you, like you've been abused or taken advantage of or stuff like that, that's even more devastating because you're in a position in your life of no power. And then you end up being in a position where now you have no power, you're vulnerable. And so when that happened, this is a girl, this is a kid, this is a person who had to be ridiculed every day, talked about, because she was being abused by this, and this person enjoyed it. And everybody who watched this person get away with it and do that. And so for once in her life, all she's seen was the bully. And this is the greatest thing, especially young people out here listening, people listening. You got to be careful how you treat people, because you don't know when you gonna need them again. You don't know what can happen. You got to be careful hurting people. You got to be careful, doing.
You're also building up negative karma.
You building it up.
Best believe nobody's gonna get away with the hurt. You're not gonna get away with hurting someone else. And reveling in somebody else's misfortunes and somebody else's pain. It's going to come back on you. That's just life. That's karma.
I had some devastating blows that people did me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And because of forgiveness and God in me, I let it go and still bless them.
Yeah.
There are people who stole from me that I've gotten them jobs, or people who've done that where they stole from me, did me wrong, and then put me down as a job reference. Really? But I gave them a great reference when I could have said, that's lying, thieving dog, no. But I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So we got to look at the correct way of forgiveness and the correct way of letting go.
Yeah.
First our focus. Forgiveness is directed towards the person who wronged you, acknowledge their actions and the harm they caused. I'm going to forgive you, but I need you to know what you did to me. Yeah. Most people think forgiveness is just, you know what, you did something to me, it's over with. No, I don't accept apologies that's generalized. I'm sorry. If you stole from me and you want to say, if I did something wrong to you, let me go. No,
I'm sorry.
Dude, that gives you a rewind, because that allows you to do it again, because you ain't never acknowledged what you acknowledge. That's what the Bible said, confess your sin one another. That's before the prayers of a righteous will even work. You need to go to one another, confess. Listen, I'm gonna pray for you, but I did this. Forgive me. Yeah. And this is specifically what I did. Repentance. So another thing is the purpose. What is the purpose of forgiveness? It's to release the anger, resentment, desire for revenge, allowing you to move forward and hold it on instead of hold on to negativity. Negativity will destroy your life. Hold it on to it. Yeah. Then what about relational? Forgiveness can be relational process, potentially leading to reconciliation on a healthier relationship, but it's not always necessary. I can not be a part of your life to be a part of your life, or I can not be a part of your life, but I can let it go where we can reconcile to agree to disagree, to be agree to distance. Yeah. And it's not all about forgetting. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what happened or excusing the wrong, but it's rather choosing to release the emotional burden for. I'm not mad that you stole from me. I'm just never gonna give you an opportunity to steal anything else from me. You can't ask me nothing, but I'm not mad. You free.
Right.
But I can say no in 4 or 5 different languages. Nada. Nope. No pie. Nope. It can't go happen.
I just need one, English. No.
Yeah, and internal and external forgiveness can be both eternal process of healing and external act of compassion. Because you know what? If you victimize me, you was a victim one day at your life.
So I was looking up, there's a psychologist by the name of Everett Washington.
Yes.
And he created a model on how to forgive, and it's called REACH. So if you can remember the word REACH, it's a forgiveness model. So the R stands for recall the hurt. The E says empathize with the offender. That means putting yourself in their shoes, imagining how they were feeling, what they were thinking, what was going on in their life at the time. Then there's the A for altruistic, which means it's a gift of forgiveness. And the C is commit to the forgiveness experience, because it's not just something that happens in one sitting and that's just it. It's a process. And then H is hold on to forgiveness. Because sometimes those bad and negative things, remember what I said, if you forgive and you don't let go, you're replaying that hurt in your mind. So you want to make sure that you're holding on to that forgiveness and you're remembering. So when that negative self-talk pops up in your head, then you can put that in check. And also, I say be careful about talking about it all the time. Sometimes when you decide to forgive and let go, everybody want to know what had happened. And you want to tell that story. You want to keep replaying it. You want to keep being the victim because maybe it's giving you some attention. Maybe you feel love, or maybe you feel, some type of, just for other people saying, hey, you're right. You know what I mean? That person was terrible and shouldn't have did that to you. And that brings you some kind of peace. But sometimes we need to just stop talking about it because you're rehearsing it over and over and over again.
Here's why people can't do that. Because they lose their audience, their ministry, and everybody that gives them love if they stop being a victim.
Yeah.
If they let it go. Do you know there are people who won't let go of hurt, and they have ministries out here where they're bashing men. They're bashing women.
Yeah.
You have songs that disrespect women. Mm-hmm. You have people because they get attention from being the victim.
Yeah.
You
got to remember, if you're still feeling hurt, if you can still like it's present, like it just happened, that's pain that hasn't been released. And it's better to release that pain, let it go, and stop rehearsing it over and over. Stop telling everybody the story. Okay, just move on, move forward, and let that be your story. Let the glow up be your story. Let the fact that you are doing well be your story. Let the fact that you're healed, that you're happy, and you're attracting better, healthy relationships into your life. Let that be your story.
Because the last thing I want to do is to go on a date talking about your ex. He's your ex for a reason. I don't want to listen. I don't want him. Why you keep talking about, I just want to make sure you ain't, And because I've had people accuse me. I went on a date years ago. Lady accused me of being elusive. You're elusive to be a pastor. No, you asking me questions. I've never had experience with you. I'm not going to answer on his behalf or answer on the behalf of men. And we probably would have never been in that situation. But you talking about, men feel this way, and men, and this, if you feel that way, why are you dating? Why are we talking backwards?
I was in the nail shop just yesterday, and it was a lady in the nail shop, and she answered her phone, and you can tell that this is a man that she's just meeting and that she's just getting to know. Mm-hmm. And he's asking her questions, and she's answering these questions. And for the entire time that I was getting my nails done, she was talking to this man about her ex. She went so far back as to when she was in college dating the man and gave him every single detail, play by play, blow by blow, what was happening in their relationship at every point in time throughout the decades. And I was just sitting there and I wanted so bad to be like, sis, hang up the phone, put the phone down.
Like, go back what are you
doing? And she's telling him about all the things this man did wrong to her and all the ways she was trying to make herself seem good. So she wanted to talk about all the ways she helped him be the man he is today by making him, live up to some boundaries or whatever she had. But it was so obvious to me that woman was still devastated at the loss of that prior relationship. And she had not let it go. She had not let go of the pain. And it's not even always sometimes letting go of the pain. When somebody hurts you, somebody you love, somebody you were excited about, somebody you enjoyed spending time with, somebody you lived your life with day in and day out. Sometimes you need to let go of the happiness. Sometimes you just have to let go of the experience in and of itself of that person and move on.
I told you I had a friend of mine who husband passed years ago, and She has everything in her house of them. And then she wondered why she can't keep a relationship. Is because you want everybody to live up, you know, always talking about what you and this guy had. Okay, I know what y'all had, but don't nobody want to hear that. They're not gonna live in trying to fulfill somebody else's shoes they never met. Yeah. You know, that's why I always suggest when two people got two houses, y'all need to sell them houses or rent them out and get a new house where you both can build memories for you guys, opposed to living in someone else's memory and someone else's shadow.
So I want somebody, I don't know, if somebody can type this in, if you online, if you could type this in, because I do daily affirmations. And so one of my affirmations, I pulled this affirmation. It says, I choose to release what no longer serves me and forgive with grace to make space for peace. So I'm going to repeat that. If somebody could type that in, if you could, I choose to release what no longer serves me and forgive with grace to make space for peace, because that is what replaces the pain, peace. And that's what we want to have.
Yeah. You know, when I think about letting go, I focus on, you know, the eternal process, focus on releasing emotional pain, resentment, and need to control to change the past. Mm-hmm. One of the things about letting go is that we have to get rid of the fact that there is a process of releasing emotional pain. It's not overnight. Right. It's not going to happen, but there is a process of releasing emotional pain, because that is where it is, releasing the emotional pain. You know, then you got to get rid of the resentment and need to control the change the past. You cannot control or you cannot change the past. You must understand that it happened. It's going to happen. It happened. You know, you got to release that emotional pain, and you have to have a process in plan. My process of releasing emotional pain was therapy. Mm-hmm. That was what guided me through the exercise to get through. And I have to face the ugly parts of me and the ugly parts of what people did to me to order to beat it. I had to go. Who's another? Growing up, I was bullied by my cousins. My heart was targeted at them and said, make amends. In the moment, a sense of peace came over. I had to apologize to them, even though they did me wrong. The apology was for me.
Oh,
wow! Go with that.
Deep. Because
go with that.
Sometimes when you get through forgiving the other people, you got to remember to come back and forgive yourself, because that's when you have true freedom. And sometimes the piece of not forgiving yourself is the actual thing that keeps you bound and connected to that person, to that experience, to that hurt, to that pain, because you haven't forgiven yourself. I'm big on everybody taking responsibility, right? And in a lot of these situations where we end up getting hurt, we gave people access to us. Right. We allowed them in our lives. We allowed them to,
even though the Holy Spirit warned us not to.
Even then, and it could be so many red flags. You think you in red light therapy, but at the end of the day, you make those choices. A lot of times, even in abusive situations, and I understand this is a deeper psychological aspect to this, but people stay. They stay, in that abuse, and so it's very important to acknowledge the part that you played in that and say, okay, nobody forced me to do this. Nobody forced me to stay. Nobody forced me to engage with this person. Nobody forced me to accept what I should not have accepted. Nobody forced me to not live within my boundaries. And I forgive myself for that too, because that's very important.
And then when we think about emotional pain, emotional pain is normally accompanied by hope that something can get better.
Yeah.
Because we all hope that something can get better. So when we think about the purpose of letting go, it is about granting yourself peace of mind and moving forward in your life, regardless of the actions of the other. What are the things that of releasing or letting go, especially that emotional trauma, is to understand that you got to move in the movement of what's happening. Like you have to always have a brilliant escape plan. You got to already be moving. I said something yesterday on Facebook. I said that I'm sorry, everybody comment, even people comment on the thing. I said something on Facebook is that they were too stupid to build around me. So they built around me, not knowing that I was building around them all the time. And so, like, when we think about the peace of mind we get from letting go, because not letting go robs us, and let's be real about letting go. Forgiveness is requirement by God, but letting go is a personal choice.
I agree.
The Bible says he throws our sins in the sea of forgetfulness. Why? Because he doesn't want to be reminded of what we did, and neither was us. That's why when Jesus died for our sins, he sees his son. And it is not about forgetting. You may not forget what happened, but you choose not to release, to have the emotional grip.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You violated it.
Yeah, I say forgiveness is spiritual, but healing is strategic. You have to have, like you said earlier, you have to have a plan. There is a process that you need to go through. Let me ask you this question. Can you let go but not forgive?
That's my next question. I want to tell you.
You asked.
I'm gonna get to that.
Then
I want to get to that. Let me just say this before I answer that question.
Okay.
One of the greatest parts about letting go is self-empowerment. Because as long as you don't let go, a person can kick your butt and torture you every day and never be in your presence. Every time,
you holding on to that,
because you holding on to it.
That's right.
And listen, the devil don't need nothing new to attack you with, because if you don't let go, he has legal right to attack you. If you don't forgive, and most people think the devil coming up with something new. No, he ain't. You still holding the old.
He's going to do it.
He's gonna keep doing it.
Yeah, he's gonna use your pain. He's gonna weaponize your pain against you, and essentially, that's what unforgiveness is. It's weaponizing pain that somebody else caused against yourself.
Now, you asked me the question: can you let go but not forgive? Letting go doesn't mean forgiving and forgetting and condoning the other person's behavior. It is absorbing. It is not absorbing that person of all wrongdoings of their actions. Let me just first say that many people use the word of experience for a reason of not letting go of something. That is my experience with this person. This is what I know this person from. One of the things we must understand is we got to understand that when we decide to forgive, we have to go through the stages of letting go.
So that's definitely what we hear.
Right.
The solution. So
right.
What's the stages?
Because we're talking about the stages. Because a lot of times people let go by making you dead. And let me just to them. And here is something that you don't know. There is nothing more powerful in this world than total cutoff. Than not talking.
I'm good at
there is nothing because when people always say to you, hey, I just want to check on you, see what's up with you, or check on you to check on how you're doing. No, they want to check their access to you. They don't miss you. They just want to check to see if they still got access to you so that they can run their game or see where your mental is, see if this is a good opportunity to run their game. You know what I mean? Now, when we think about the letting go part, you letting go, most people let go by burying, not dealing. They let go by burying. There are some people who are just can become emotionless.
Yeah.
I don't give a damn. I don't care. And what they did this, okay, you did to me. It can be family, it can be friends, it can be okay. I don't love you no more.
But you know what? Let's pause right there, because I think very, very differently about that. I'm the type of person that makes it mandatory as a part of my process. And this is a pre-thought process. I know if I get to this point of this type of hurt and pain and betrayal, this is what I'm going to do. So part of my process is releasing that person. That's the first thing that happens for me. But a lot of people make the mistake in thinking that that's easy to do, and it's not. It's not easy to just say, I'm cutting off all access. There will be no phone calls. There will be no checking on you, you checking on me, me looking at your social media accounts. And, the releasing for me is a form of death. And there's grief in that. And that is not easy
deep.
for me.
Wow, that's deep.
I go through the process of grieving, but it seems like it's a cold-hearted thing, because I can do it in an instant like a light switch. It's like, okay, because I'm wired to that. I don't want nobody that don't want me. I don't want to be with anybody that doesn't want to be with me. I don't want to be around people that can't respect me. I don't want to have anything to do with malicious intent. And when you do that to me, no matter how much I love you, no matter how much I care, I will disconnect. But that is for me to disconnect from you and reconnect with myself, because I now have a process that I have to go through as a result of the toxic or nature of the relationship. And I'm going to choose me every time. And I'm going to relinquish you as step one. But that is not easy. That's one of the most difficult things to do. That's why you get people with all this touchback.
Okay, Liz say that's your guard. Here's something that we got to understand, and this is something, and I'm going to talk about the stages of unforgiveness, the stages of forgiveness, but I'm going to talk about that. But it was said, she said, that's your guard, because
exactly, because you need it sometimes.
A therapist said
sometimes you even need your anger sometimes, because that will keep you in a place of
I was about to go there.
Back.
A therapist said to me that it is not just releasing your anger's win, because sometimes people anger and what they're going through, what they went through, fuel them to better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can't let it go right then and there, because that's what's fueling you to do better.
Yeah.
That, because sometimes you got to be hurt bad and go through the negative or the dirt for you to get like, listen, I can't never come back here no more. Because how would you know? It says also people build walls to let people come in. Because how would you know what a good man is or a good woman is if you never had bad ones?
Yeah.
Just like a rainy day. Sunny, how you know what a sunny day is if you never had a rainy day?
Yeah. My best friend says all the time, I kissed a lot of frogs. And that's how I know when my prince came.
Come on.
She knew her prince because she had kissed a lot of frogs. And that's true. But one of the things, I don't want to make it seem like there is a way that you can use anger in a positive way, because you're not reacting on your anger. You're using it as a tool to guard you and protect you for the time that you need to be able to process the hurt and the pain. And so you're just using the anger as a guard. Now, if you're using your anger to lash out at other people, then that is not a response to your situation. That's a reaction to your situation. And that's something that's two totally different things.
And she said it, Leah said, forgiveness equates to
the grieving process.
That's
right.
true, because I got to grieve, because the worst thing to do is to grieve somebody still alive.
Or to just act like, I don't care about them. And you don't want to act hard in a sense of, losing a piece of yourself. But you do want to use the natural, because we're all human, and these are all natural emotional responses to situations that can be empowering to us if we use them in the right way.
Well, there is 4 stages to forgiveness.
Okay.
The first stage is uncovering anger. One of the things that people do is they try to deny that they're mad. If we're feeling a certain way, let's deal with it. You may not like me. We may not be happy today, but let's talk about it. Let's get it out. Let's say what we got to say. Listen, if we need to get in a boxing ring, let's do it. Because the stage involves acknowledging and understanding the hurt, anger, and other emotions associated with the offense. Yeah. We must understand the offense. We must understand the hurt, the anger, and the emotions. We must identify them and go after them to heal them, because they grow.
Yeah.
That resentment and anger grows. Anger is something that's watered by emotions, and it grows. It grows to hate. It grows to violence.
Yes.
It grows.
Yeah. So uncovering that anger, that is a form of getting clarity for yourself. That's what I said earlier when we first opened the show. For me, I need clarity. And so uncovering the anger and all of those pieces of understanding is going to be a direct path to peace.
You know, and listen, we must understand the second phase of that stage of that is deciding to forgive. This is where you make a conscious choice to forgive, recognize the potential benefits of doing so, and the harm holding on to anger. Anger is like you eating poison, waiting for that person to die. It's not going to happen. That you have to make a conscientious decision. I am going to heal this person. I am going to forgive this person. I'm not saying reconcile,
Right.
but you must forgive.
Yeah. Because you know what? You can release the bit, and I had this actually in my notes. Poison. You can release the bitterness so it doesn't poison your future, because that is exactly what it's going to do. It's going to affect everything in your life moving forward. Even if you're not ready to say, I forgive you yet. But at the end of the day, you can still decide, I'm going to release this bitterness. I'm not ready to deal with that person. I'm not ready, to get to the forgiveness part, but I'm going to, decide to make that decision, and I'm going to release the bitterness and move towards that, down the road in that process.
And like Leah said, you have to forgive yourself. Now, here's something: the third stage is working on forgiveness. This stage involves actively engaging in activities that promote forgiveness, such as empathy, compassion, understanding the offender's perspective. Like most molesters, most abusers, this was done to them. There is always root to somebody's sickness.
Yeah. They were raised in a house where they weren't valued, or, they were abandoned by, their parents when they were young. There's a lot of different ways that you can empathize with the person. That doesn't make it okay that they did what they did. But if you can empathize with the feeling or the emotion and how that would make you feel had you experienced that, then that's a very real part of the process of forgiveness.
And she said, from this decision, the most people, they harbor negative thoughts of self. You know why? Because they feel like everyone feels like maybe it was something I could have done. Or one of the greatest lies that people tell each other is that I could have prevented it in some way. No, you couldn't have.
Yeah.
What happened to you, God knew was going to happen to you, and it happened to you. You have to understand, you have to engage in activities, promote forgiveness. What was my engagement of forgiveness and life change? Because I don't have the greatest resume. I've been through many things where I wanted to take my life. I've been married multiple times. I have been in things that you couldn't imagine. It was only because of God. And I had a wonderful mother, didn't have a father there. My mother was raped and I was molested, and see, wow, that's powerful. And I'll let Anita talk more there, but I just want to make this point is, for me, what changed my life was God and therapy. Yeah. God changed my life. He took a messed up and made a masterpiece. Therapy. I had to face those things, and I had to save the child then so that the adult can live free. And my testimony is to give God glory, but my resume is not good. Yeah. And it's not, and I'm not ashamed of my resume, because I put in the work to be a better person.
And you should.
And she said, that her mother was raped and she was molested.
Yeah, and there's no shame in that, and bless you for being able to be
thank you,
very transparent and putting that out there, because that is so many women's stories, and it is a generational. Somebody she also said generational trauma, so that is a lot of our stories, believe me. And when we we're talking about right now, can you let go but not forgive? And so the answer in this is absolutely yes, because I've let go of people in situations that were very toxic for my spirit. Even if I never said, I forgive you out loud, sometimes that healing starts with just walking away. And that forgiveness part can come later because we need to allow our hearts time to breathe. Okay. And so in dealing with those situations, understanding your past, understanding your traumas, understanding the path of how you got there, that's, even empathizing with yourself to say, I was raped, I was molested, this is a generational curse. And so I didn't have the tools that I needed to protect myself. But maybe I'm going to get this healing thing down so my daughter doesn't go through what me and my mother went through. I'm going to work through this process of letting go of this pain and not reliving that hurt over and over and over again in my head. It's not about releasing the other person. It's about releasing yourself to be free, because we want to be able to move forward and govern ourselves where we can break that curse, because there's also another side of that, which is generational blessings. And that's what we want to get to. So we have to stop being the victim. We have to stop living in that comfort zone of telling our story over and over again. Not that we're not telling it in a way to teach others, so you can be of some help and some service. But I mean, repeating the trauma in your head and repeating those feelings over and over again. That's how you release, and that's how you can work towards forgiving. Like I said, they're not twins, forgiving and letting go, but they are sisters. So you got to try to do them either, one at a time or both. But if you can do both at the same time, then you are going to activate that healing process and tap into that much sooner.
Because, the last part is discovery and release. The final stage involves releasing the anger and resentment and finding peace and moving forward with a renewed sense of hope and well-being. The thing is that, and I appreciate it. This is Ash said it's powerful. Yes. The thing is that it's not easy. You have to release the anger and resentment. You have to let it go for you. You know that, because it robs you, but you have to find a peace, and it's a process, because I couldn't find peace without therapy. You will automatically forget. When you truly forgive, you will automatically forget, because you don't want to hold on to that. That's what Aaliyah said. You'll forget, because we got to understand something, is that we're holding on weight that God, and one of the things God said, bring to me your burdens. A lot of times we want to give God the feelings, but we don't want to give him the thought. We don't want to give it to him. We want to take it, and because you know what? Sometimes our pain feels like our comfort zone, because we understand our pain better than the unzone, and then it gives us a reason now to try better. Sometimes our pain gives us a reason not to try better. That's why you have to be with somebody physically and mentally astute enough, or spiritually astute enough, to be with you. A lot of times, and when you talk about relationships, we choose down when we need help up.
Yeah. I want to address one of the comments, because I read it, and I feel like this is one of those things where Aaliyah stated that when you truly forgive, you will automatically forget. And we were taught a lot of negative things that does not serve us well. And so there's probably all of us growing up, we heard forgive and forget, forgive and forget, forgive and forget. I don't buy into that, because to me, forgetting is sometimes it's not even possible, nor do you want it to be, because you want to have the memory, but you just want to release the pain that comes from that. But that remembering will allow you to get in front of and get ahead of repeating those same mistakes and repeating those same curses, and not teaching the next generation of young people the difference of what true love and healthy relationships look like. So you don't necessarily want to forget what happened to you. I was molested as a child, and I forgive, and I have let go completely. But I will never forget that, nor should I, because that is my tool and that is my responsibility to take that experience and teach it to other mothers, teach it to other women,
Remember
other
the sting of the
children.
enemy.
Okay, so she's clarifying. She says you won't remember the sting of the enemy. There you go. That is the clarification I was trying to make, is that you want to release that pain and the hurt, that and the confusion that came from that pain, but just actually remembering it, because I like to use the things that I've gone through as a tools to help other people. And I'm going to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it in a healthy way. And I'm not coming from a place of pain anymore. I'm coming from a place of peace where I can share the joy in overcoming that situation and the steps that I went through to get there.
And listen, join us next week, because we're going to be talking about how to rebuild after facing some devastating events in your life. How do you rebuild?
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about that, because when we think about that stage of way of being, we need a sense of hope and renewing. Yeah. And one of the things you don't want to be with, especially in a relationship, especially after trauma, surviving trauma, is somebody that's going to be your professional mourner. That's one thing about me. I will never be somebody's professional mourner. If you all remember when Jesus was going to the house of Jairus to raise his daughter from the dead, Jairus, they had in the house professional mourners. At that time, it was a profession to be a mourner. Yeah. You made good money to come in and cry at somebody's funeral, you know. So Jesus said, put them out. Put them out. You don't need that. Some people, you got to put the mourners out of your life. You need somebody that can pour into you, and you don't need nobody. That's why I went through therapy 3.5 years. That's why I'm, I work with Association of Black Therapists, social workers. And that's why I study the way I do, is because I understand that I am not my was or my mistakes. And a lot of it had to do with where you were mentally. Yeah. I always ask the question, where was you when you made that position? Where were you at in your mind when you made those positions, those situations?
Yeah. And that process that Corey shared and that he's talking about now, it's like that. It deals with uncovering, deciding a thing, working through it. I call that emotional rehab.
Come on.
That's what we're going through. It's
I was like, a pain addict, a pain addict.
We have to rehabilitate ourselves, which means we have to learn new ways of doing the things that we used to do. That's going to serve us and help us to grow. I say forgiveness lets them go, but letting go lets you grow. And so somebody put that in the chat. Forgiveness lets them go. Letting go lets you grow. And you can't. And so in other words, forgiveness sets those boundaries in your spirit. And then letting go opens up the doors for your peace. Okay.
Because God said, be slow to anger.
Yeah.
He didn't say you wouldn't get angry. And that's what it is possible to forgive someone and still be angry.
Oh, yeah.
As forgiveness is the decision to let go resentment and bitterness, not necessarily immediate erosion of all negative emotions. Yeah. It is that even though I'm angry at what you did, I'm not trying to bust your head because of what you did. Or like Jasmine Sullivan said, bust your car windows. I bust the windows out your car. Is that what it is? Or spend up all your money like that other credit card loan she had was like, well, that is worth that. So I'm talking about, I got to go running up your credit cards and stuff like that.
Yeah. You just got to remember that forgiveness and letting go, they work hand in hand.
And then
hand in hand. They don't always go in order, but it's always a purpose for both. And that's what we need to remember. That's what if y'all can get anything out of this part, is just that they work together hand in hand, and one may come before the other. There's, like I said, there are no sequential steps to forgiveness. You got to do this, then this, then this, then that. No, it doesn't work like that. It can happen in any type of way. Like you see those guys on the bus doing the cups and they moving them all around. That's how forgiveness and letting go is. It can come in all different kind of orders, and things going to shift and things are going to move. But they do work. Remember that. They're not twins, but they sisters.
And we got to understand something, is that forgiving somebody is not just for you. Mark 11:25, he says that when you stand praying and you hold anything against anyone, forgive them so the Father in heaven may forgive you of your sins. Your prayers are not answered because of unforgiveness. Your sin is not forgiven because of unforgiveness. You've been asking God for something for a long time that only letting go and unforgiveness is going to get you. Some of you all would be healed immediately if you would let go something, which to the root of most sickness is something that someone didn't let go. Paul said in Ephesians, tell us that we must forgive one another and let go of rage, anger, slander among the emotions and acts. We're not just going to forgive the emotional part, but we got to forgive the acts, because God will make it where we will come back in contact with this person some kind of way, and he'll make it where we got the sword in our hand to deliver a blow. But what did he tell Peter? The one that lived by the sword
dies by the sword.
Dies by the sword.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
you got to try to clear the way for true emotional freedom. You want to be set free, and you want to be set free indeed. And so, try to marry letting go and forgiveness at the same time. This is a great area to study because it's so valuable in the process of becoming a better person.
well, what's the thing about forgiveness versus forgetting? You know, why do people bid that against each other so much? Forgiveness versus forgetting.
Because our emotions don't obey our decisions.
Ooh.
They
Ooh.
don't.
Ooh.
You can
you just open up a can of worms. Now you got to roll with it.
Decide to forgive, but your emotions are not bound by that. You can still be anxious. You can still be sad. You can still be hurt. You can still be, disappointed. Your emotions are not going to obey your decisions. Okay, so that's why is you can forgive and still be angry, and it's okay. It's okay.
Because forgiveness is desire to get rid of the desire for revenge and punishment.
Yeah, I can forgive someone in my spirit, but I still have to do the work. I still have to work through the anger they left behind, because I've been very angry at times. And I have to work through that. I have to release that anger. So me deciding to forgive does not alleviate me from having to do the work. And we just want everything to be quick, fast, in a hurry, packaged up real nice and pretty. We want it in a box with a bow that says forgiveness. And here we go. I want that. But life doesn't work like that. Our emotions don't work like that. And the more we can understand that we are emotional human beings, the better we can start to honor those thoughts and honor those feelings and respect the emotions at the same time, make positive decisions.
And we got to think about forgiveness is not about making excuses, because I'm not going to make excuses on why I condone what somebody did, nor am I going to make excuses for why I hold on to something.
Yeah.
Because people want to be forgiven for their actions, their disrespect, their ways of they cannot go back to your emotions. Wars have started by emotional distraught leaders. Yes, because a lot of times we make excuses for why we feel it so way. Why I hate men. There was a lady that was on my show that she said she hated men. She loved women because her mother was in some kind of sex club, and she seen this man taking advantage of this girl, which he was very, I'm not, without getting explicit, he was very endowed, and he was taking advantage of this lady, and they watched, and she asked for help, and they didn't help her. And she said from that point on, she never liked men. She liked women from that point on. And so when we look at what we do, we can't make excuses, for why we do what we do. We have to get help to forgive for freedom.
Yeah.
Because we cannot defeat bitter feelings by doing bitter wrong.
Yeah. We got to remember, even if you still feel strong emotions, that doesn't mean you haven't forgiven. That's another thing I think I was taught growing up that I have had to challenge as an adult to say, no, that really wasn't the way that it is, because I can forgive a person and have, but I've still had to sit in those emotions because we're human. And that's just, a matter of fact. Even if, you feel anger, your forgiveness is still real. But then eventually
Absolutely.
your feelings will catch up to that at a certain point. If you are actively trying to adult your life and do better and heal, it'll eventually catch up.
Let me ask you a question. Let's get deep. What did or what has not letting go robbed you of in your life?
Um,
Mm,
Peace, relationships, um, freedom.
mm.
Uh, it's devastating. When you don't let go and when you can't forgive. And for a long time, it caused me to not understanding. When I was in that place of not understanding how to work through that, it caused me to harden my heart, so it kept people out, so it kept me in an alone state, of being, because I didn't want to be around people and I didn't want to let people into my space, and meaning my heart, or open up. And so that limits the amount of happiness and experiences of joy that I have in my life. It also robbed me of grieving. It has robbed me at times of um, really celebrating people that have been in my life and celebrating the experiences and the love that I've shared with other people, because I was
Wow.
angry about certain things. And so those are all the things that I had to realize, to say, you know what? No, I deserve to have those happy thoughts. I deserve to have happy memories, and I deserve to celebrate the people that I have loved in my life. And so that means I need to let go of all this negativity. I need to have peace within myself.
That's good.
And that helped me down my path and helped me to really learn to become an emotionally mature person. But I first had to learn to understand what my emotions were. And that's a place that you can start. What are all the different emotions? I've gone around and I've asked so many adults this, and children can do a better job of telling you about emotions than adults. They can name 5 or 6 at best. And I've asked children who've given me 15 to 30 answers of what different emotions that they can experience. But adults will say happy, mad, sad, joy, anger, and that's about as much as they know.
Wow.
But when you learn to what the emotions are, you can express yourself communicating how you feel without always having to act out of the anger, because you don't know how to identify what's really happening inside of you.
When I asked that question, so when you keep holding on to bad memories and negative emotions from your past, over time it will pile up and become much more for you to bear. Too much for you to bear. This can cause you to break down and feel very strong emotions like remorse, anger, hatred, regret, fear, loneliness, and more. One of the things that robbed me of was my peace. It robbed me of relationships. It robbed me of happiness. It robbed me because I couldn't let go, because I wanted everyone to believe um, you have a beautiful soul. You are a bright light, woman of God. I send you virtual hug. Also, I ain't got no beautiful heart. See that? You know what?
Miss Aaliyah,
I'm bunking Leah. Bunk her now. Let me stop. And what it robbed me of, because I didn't let go because I felt like everybody that came into my life owed me something, because I was robbed by somebody else.
And maybe you thought that because they thought you owed them something.
Yes.
That's a mirror. That's a mirror reflection.
Most people, and like I was saying, most people look at what you bring to the table and what they bring to the table, and they don't look at the table and see what's missing and say, let's work together as a couple to bring what's missing from the table to the table, so we have a great meal. A lot of times, when I look at what was stolen from me, opportunities, and I look at of not letting go, but then at the same time, I realized that letting go held me back.
Yeah.
because every time I was faced with a good person, a good opportunity, a good relationship, a good ministry, a good place, I would find a reason to sabotage it because I wouldn't let go. So
Yeah.
I was taking a project mentality into a mansion, making a mansion a big project.
So let me say this to really simplify what not letting go really robs you of. It robs you of your present, meaning where you are right now today in time and space. It robs you of your present, meaning your gifts, your blessings that are supposed to come to you. So I've watched people miss their blessings so many times because they were stuck in the path. In the past. And Corey and I spoke earlier this week, and we were talking about this, and we got on this conversation because we were excited about this topic. And I was saying, let me go into an insane asylum, and I will show you a building full of people who could not let go of the past.
Oh, that's deep.
They couldn't let go of the
Wow,
past.
that's
so
deep.
They couldn't live in the present moment, right? And so this is the kind of things that drives you crazy because people are stuck. They're replaying that betrayal. They're replaying rejection and the regret. And, I've been there myself, smiling on the outside, hey, but super mad and angry on the inside. And so you don't get peace when your hands are still wrapped around your pain, right? Because you're holding on to that, right? And so if you're holding on to your pain, how are you going to open up to receive blessings? Because look at my posture. I'm literally holding on to all this pain that I'm carrying around. I have to free that pain so I can open up my hands to receive the blessings that God has for me. So when you let go, you're actually freeing yourself to get more, but of the good things that God has for you, of the good places he wants you to sit in inside yourself. You can rebuild your confidence, and you can rebuild and regain your beauty, not just on the outside, but on the inside. And that all starts with, being present in the moment and open and ready to receive your gifts.
That is so powerful. And I'm actually texting somebody right now who wants to talk to you, who says that you're just a beautiful soul, the lady of a beautiful soul, to send her your information because you have really blessed her and you blessed so many people. And one thing about me is I try to talk about what I know, but I don't know what it is to be violated. So I'm not going to do that.
But there are many ways to be violated.
Right.
It's not always just a violation of your body. There's a violation of your mind, your body, and your spirit, and your finances too. So there are many ways to be violated. So you can tap into that experience. You didn't have the exact experience of violating of your body, but you've experienced violation.
Sure have.
You know what I mean?
Sure
so
have.
You can still help others, even in empathizing with that through your own experience.
Right. So she inboxed me. I made sure I give you information.
Okay.
Why is, let me just say why letting go is important. It's crucial to your emotional well-being. Mm-hmm. And it allows individuals to release negative emotions, create a space for growth, and embrace the present and the future with greater peace and clarity. You got to understand there are two things that we need to let go. Two of the main reasons why you need to let go, and that's emotional freedom and well-being, because you can be held hostage by your emotional content, and your well-being can be in jeopardy because of your emotional content. Releasing emotional baggage, holding on to past hurts, resentments, and unresolved issue creates an emotional baggage that can weigh you down and hinder your ability to move forward. If I gave you 1,000 bags and asked you to run a race, it'll take you all day if you make it. But if you have nothing, you ever see them sprinters? They have nothing on but some tight shorts and a shirt and and tight shirt. And I'm saying tight because it's sticking to them. They got nothing that's gonna hold, no wind, no nothing. And they jumpers on and they gone. But then you have a lot of people who can't keep up because they have a lot of emotional baggage.
I'm over here. My foot tapped.
Go ahead.
I want to jump in so bad.
Go ahead. I'm done.
Oh, that was so real. That hit my spirit the minute he said it, because I've seen people who couldn't enjoy their blessings because they were still mentally at war with somebody who's gone. The person isn't even there anymore, and you mentally at war with them, and they going on about their life. Some of them going on to glory, and you still mad. And it's like just that whole not letting go. You know what? I like to ask people, you know, this is one of the things I do. I love people with everything in me, deep down in my soul. I just love people. I love helping people, and that's what I do. That's why I talk to people. That's why I coach people and help them through their issues and problems, because that is something that's so dear to my heart. But I like to ask people, what's holding on really giving you?
How's that working out for you?
When you're not letting go, what is it giving you? Most people say stress, you know, sleepless nights. They can't sleep at night. It's just time to let go. It's not serving you well. And it's okay to let go of those things that no longer serve you well. You don't have to stoop down to its level. You get to rise above, you get to reset, and you get to rebuild your life, and you get to glow forward. At the end of the day, you don't have to stay stuck because it's not helping you. So it's not serving you. Why continue to do the same things over and over
She says,
again?
time. Woman of God, it's time for you to travel the world. You're going to usher in healing process.
Amen. Ooh. I received that.
And decluttering your mind. Letting go is like decluttering your emotional landscape, allowing you to release negative emotions and make room for positive ones like joy, contentment, and gratitude. You have to do an inventory of your mind.
Yeah.
And the way you do an inventory of your mind is to listen to your conversations.
Yeah.
If every time I talk to you, you got something going on, everything wrong or everything bad, then you having a bad moment. You got to let go, because, you know, when you keep talking about things happening, even though your mind can't you can't physically relive it, your mind makes your body relive it.
Yeah. And you get to feel what you feel, but you still get to choose freedom over bitterness. If you're going to feel something, choose freedom. Why choose bitterness? You know, and I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be honest. We've all been there because we all human. I've had to pray. I've had to journal. I've had to cry. And I have repeated the cycle. Okay. I've prayed, cried, journal some more. I'm going to continue to do what it takes until I get to the place of peace that I want to be in. And, you know, we have to remember, again, there's no sequential steps. So it's okay to repeat the cycle. Wash, rinse, repeat. Have you ever washed something that was dirty and then it came out the washing machine and it was still dirty? And you say, no, I got to put that back in again. You can rewash. You can go through the process over again. Because every time that I let something go, I get a piece of myself back. You know, so when you say, I'm going to let go of this anger, well, what did you gain from letting go of the anger? You gain some happiness.
Because releasing negative influences are limited, and those limited beliefs, it improves your mental health.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
know, mental health, restoring your balance and calmness. That's what anxiety come from. That's what most people have anxiety attacks, is because of what they won't let go is trying to get away.
Because let's be real. What you don't release is not protecting you. It's paralyzing you. It's keeping you bound. It's keeping you held down. It's keeping you where you can't move forward, where you can't progress. And you're wondering why you're sick in your body. You wonder why you always having to go to the doctor. You wondering why you can't keep a job. You wondering why everybody around you continuing to hurt you and betray you. It's because you're paralyzed in your pain. Let it go. Let it go. It's just that simple. Decide today, I'm going to let this go. Now, if I got to continue to do the work, continue to work on the healing, continue to go through my process, I'm going to do that. But I'm not going to live my life paralyzed in pain.
And you know, that's important, because you want a growth from letting go, and you want a transformation. You know, you want to create a space for new experiences.
Yes.
Because what happens is, what you don't let go takes up all the space. I ask Anybody I ever get involved with, I ask a question: do you have room to receive me?
Yeah.
Not saying that you're not a good person, not saying that you don't have a lot, not saying that you wouldn't be happy, but if I moved into your mind and I moved into your heart, is it room for the things that I have or the things that I bring?
Yeah.
You know, is it that I got one space in the corner where you are an emotional hoarder?
Yeah.
Where you got trauma everywhere, and I'm stepping over trauma. I'm stepping over everything that everybody did just to get in a corner where I am trapped in your in your mind or trapped in your heart because you don't have any room. Because when you create a space, you let go of the past, you create a space for new opportunity, experiences, and relationships to enter your life. Some relationships enter your life with old people's stipulations and not new beginnings and new directions. So you have to be able to let go so you can embrace change. Letting go is a necessary part of growth and transformation, but it allows you to embrace change and move it forward with a renewed sense of purpose, because most people who will not let go, will not remove, will not leave where they've been at. Most people want to heal in a place that broke them.
Yeah.
And that is something that won't happen. I believe every disciple that God used, he told them to pack your bag, pick up your cross and walk. That you cannot be healed in a place that keeps breaking you. That is one of the biggest parts of letting go that people don't get. You know, I let go, I forgive you, but I can't move back in that house, because I move back in that house. It's like a crackhead that's been off a crack for a week saying, I'm just gonna go to the drug house with you because you still use drugs. I don't want none. I'm just gonna sit up in there.
Because we sometimes believe that holding on keeps us safe, you know, but oftentimes what's happening is just keeping us stuck. It's keeping us stuck. And honestly, it's keeping us stuck in places that we are actually ready to grow past, right? And so letting go isn't some type of weakness. We got to get that out of our heads. Letting go, it's actually this amazing, beautiful, courageous way of saying, you know what? This no longer defines me. This isn't who I am. This isn't who I want to be. I'm ready to grow past this. So it's actually a beautiful, powerful strength that comes from letting go, because you get an opportunity to redefine yourself and redefine who you are and redefine those boundaries.
And this is how you're going to do that.
Let's go.
And this is going to shake some people's trees. When we think about focusing on the future and the present, we have to think about forgiveness with acceptance. Forgiveness as a key to letting go. Forgiveness, both of yourself and others, plays a central role in acting the act of letting go, serving as a bridge. Acceptance. Learn to accept the things as they are rather than how you like them to be is a crucial step in the process of letting go. Let's just be honest about our situation. We can't talk. Let's be honest with our situation. You don't have the mental skills to be with me. You hurt me. Right now, my life is in shambles because you cheated on me, you abused me, you hurt me. I believe you sorry, but it has happened. Let me look at my life for what it is. I have been robbed of my greatness because I've not let this go. I've been robbed. Let me be honest about that, because my therapist, I thought he was picking on me. And I'm like, why are you always blaming me? He said, no, there's a common denominator in everything, and that's you. And until you accept your responsibility into what you did, you repeat the cycle. And the thing is that, listen, my life, one of the things that my first session, and my 12 sessions are on Facebook. The first session, he said, you cannot say nothing negative until you get back to me. 95% of my conversation stopped. He said, what did you learn? I'm a negative person.
But you also learn to be quiet and sit with yourself and sit with your thoughts.
But here it is.
You know what I mean?
My position as a minister, as a pastor, the many people I help, the harder I worked, the more I gave, blinded me to a fact that I was a negative person that needed negativity, breathe negativity, speak negativity. And that one session said, wow.
But again, in going through your healing process and going through that exercise that your therapist took you through, understand there was a flip side of what the negative thing you discovered about yourself. There was a flip side to that, because when you understood 90% of your conversation was negative, and you went that week and you really was silent most of the time because you couldn't say anything negative, so you just had to be quiet. That actually is a soul searching exercise. So you not only learn that you were negative, but you also learn to stop and think. So I just, let me explain this, because I'm saying that to say, when you accept this is where things are, that doesn't mean you don't develop a path to go forward.
No, I agree with you on that. But my point is, I didn't accept it until then.
Yeah.
If you said to me, Corey, you negative, I wasn't going to accept it. It was in that moment when I'm sitting up there like my phone ain't ringing.
It's a crucial step.
And I had to accept it.
Yeah.
That you will not accept where you are and what God has for you if you won't accept where you are. Yeah. If you want to be honest, because most people, it's hard to psychoanalyze yourself, and you ain't going to admit the truth. You ain't going to admit the truth. That you ain't going to say, okay, you know what? I handled that person wrong.
Yeah.
Or you know what? I judged that person wrong. Yeah. Or I didn't give that person a chance. Or you know what? I didn't write the book when I had a chance to write the book. Or I didn't do the business when I had a chance. And a lot of times we won't accept it, because in order for me to let go, I have to accept it. I have to accept something happened.
Yeah.
I have to accept this is what I do because that happened. I have to accept where I am. Now I got to accept the fact that I got to do better.
There you go. That's because I say this every week, because I always try to come back to the solutions, right?
The
Solutions radio show. So yes, once you hit that acceptance level, once you realize my life sucks, and I hate where I am, and I don't like myself, and I don't like how I'm showing up in the world, and I don't like, the reflection that I'm seeing back in the mirror. You don't get to say, oh, well, that's just me. That's just how I am. How many times do people carry that umbrella? To put themselves under the umbrella? That's just me. That's just an excuse not to do better and be better, and not to show up for yourself and others in an authentic, loving, kind manner, because you want to take a look at your circumstance and say, well, that's why I did what I did, because this is my circumstance. But we got to move past that.
How do you handle embracing the unknown after you've been hurt? After you forgive? Because remember, you have forgiven and you've forgotten something. You haven't forgiven and you have let go of it, but you haven't forgot it. How do you embrace the unknown? Because how do you give a person a chance or give something else a chance when you've been hurt already?
Well, because you got to understand, you don't know the future. You don't have a crystal ball. You don't know what's going to happen.
Amen.
So this might be the person that's meant to come into your life to help you grow and to be by your side. And this might be the person who's sent to you to show you what true love is. And so you have to sometimes just be open to, because sometimes love is unfamiliar to a lot of people, but it's okay to embrace that. So embracing the unknown is just about being open to the good things after you've done the work. You have to do the work. There is no workaround to that. There's nothing we're going to ever tell you here that's just going to say one day you're just going to wake up in the morning and it's just everything's just going to be great and beautiful and you didn't have to do anything. You just woke up changed and free and all that. No, you have to do the work. And so when people force you into that uncomfortable space, that lets you know, once you start to get uncomfortable, you're tapping into some truths, and those are the things that you need to deal with to heal.
And not just that, we have to understand that we have to try people by the Spirit, because God will send us help. He will send us people. Mm-hmm. And like me, I never tell anybody, what did God show you about me? Because here's the thing, my resume and what I've been through don't say I'm who I am. God has to say who I am.
That's right.
because I've been through too much, and I've been and to see me, and that's good because God, you see God, because I don't ever want nobody to see me. I want people to see the God in me. And so you embrace the unknown because you go by the Spirit, because there are people that are not going to look like they're the people that have God's answer in their belly.
Yeah.
They're going to look messed up. They're going to look, you got to remember what Pharaoh looked at Moses. You're going to deliver all these people, and you 80 years old with a staff and a few people, and you going against this big nation, and all you got is a staff, and you're going to get these people delivered. But then he found out the hard way that he had God on his side, because when we think
with a rock and a slingshot,
right, because when we think about flourishing, therapists often distinguish between forgiveness, which involves conscious choice and release of anger, and letting go, which is a broader process of releasing emotional pain and moving forward. I have some steps that if you find yourself stuck in these, we can go at it. But if you want to,
go ahead.
One of them is practice.
Solution.
One of it is just practicing empathy.
Okay.
That is, how to truly forgive and let go is empathy, because I don't believe everybody just was born in this world with a desire to do wrong. Yeah. That a lot of times people actions and what they do is predicated on what they've been through, or what they, that a lot of people words, they're hurt because they've been hurt, and they really don't want to, be that way, to have empathy, because sometimes you can move somebody. Like I used the example about a guy who was out there cussing out people who tell him about God, homeless man. He was cussing them out. And he was basically like, so I walked up to him. He's like, man, are you going to preach too? Because you can say that. I said, no, I'm hungry. He's like, you need something to eat. You want to sit down with me and eat something to eat? He said, yeah, man. And yeah, I appreciate it. He go, a few dollars, man. And he was like, oh, man, thank you. I'm glad you didn't preach to me. I said, I did. I showed you the Jesus in me instead of told you about Jesus in me.
Yeah.
The second one is ask yourself about the circumstances that may have led to the other person to behave in such a way. Many relationships would be saved if I just ask the person that I'm with, what was the circumstance that made you or led you to feel the way you feel? Because most people argue with you, but they're arguing with you, but they're not arguing at you, because what they're arguing about happened way before they met you. Yeah. Or you're just the person in front of them to continue the battle. And what it is, most people don't do that. Okay, you feel a certain way about me. What did I do to you? Or what made you feel this way about me? What made you steal from me? It wasn't the fact that you just seen it as an opportunity. Was it the fact that your mom deprived you of something? Your dad deprived you of something? What was it that made you do that?
And you got to be emotionally mature sometimes to decipher that, because a lot of times we end up in arguments with people. You have to be able to discern when something is above you, when this is not even about you, when you all of a sudden are thrust in a situation where you're saying, this is bigger than me. So that the important part of being able to understand that comes with the empathy. When you start to feel, and when you really become emotionally intelligent, you can instantly detect that this thing is not about me. That we're arguing about something that's much bigger than where we're at, and that comes from that piece of that empathizing. And the reason that we want to empathize is because psychologically and physically, from research that are done by professionals, it reduces stress. It reduces depression and anxiety. So for any of you out there that feel, especially this piece, because I think empathizing with other people is a harder piece for people to get when they've hurt you. You don't want to empathize with them, because in your mind, you're giving them an excuse to mistreat you. But really and truthfully, what you're doing when you empathize with this other person is you're reducing negative emotions within you, which will reduce your stress level, and it's going to promote your emotional health and healing, right? And so don't think that empathizing with this other person that hurt you and did you wrong is some type of get out of jail free card for them, and they, and they just can just treat you any kind of way and do whatever, or you're making excuses for them. No, you're allowing the healing and the negative emotions to be released from you so you can receive a healthier, because remember, when you let something go, then you get something back. So you let go of the negativity, you release that, and then you can breathe in, joy and more happiness in your life.
And when you practice empathy, one of the things why I said, I asked about the circumstance that made you, that led the other person to behave in such a way. Whenever I give anybody something and they be like, well, you know what I mean, I don't deserve this, or, you know what I mean, I don't want to ask, and everything, I always remind them, I remember when I had nothing. It ain't even about you. I'm not blessing you for you. The Bible says to have an honest sacrifice. I remember when people treated me like I was diseased because they were scared I was going to ask them for something when I had nothing. So I remember that. So, one of the things about, ask yourself about the circumstances that may have led to the other person to behave in such a manner is, when was the last time you asked a friend, your family member, or even your mate, show me where it hurts. Show me, take me where you got hurt. It could be metaphorically, it could be mentally, it could be physically. Show me in your body, in your heart, where it hurts.
Now that's maturity.
So I can understand why you feel the way you feel. Show me where that person hurt you in your past relationship. Show me what that person did to you. Show me how your family hurt. Show me where you hurt at. So now we can work together to fix that. Because the second one is, you must reflect on the times when others have forgiven you. I have done stuff.
Yeah.
I have made mistakes. And somebody forgave me. It could be my mother. It could be my friends. It could be, because most people don't remember when somebody forgave them.
Yeah.
They don't remember when somebody blessed them. They don't remember when, when somebody has given them a pass.
Yes.
They think you're supposed to come already made up and already have it together and already. But what about you? Yeah. When you wasn't that person?
I remember I was at just a practical example of what we're talking about with empathy is, I was at a gas station and I got out of my car and there was a lady there, and I instantly, connected with her. Something about her just made me, look in her direction, and I could feel, something that whatever she was going through, I feel like I could feel it. And she stood there and she said, excuse me, sis, can you give me a couple dollars? She said, I'm not on drugs, and I'm not an alcoholic, or I'm not, whatever she says, but I've been out of work, and I'm just trying to go pick up my kids from daycare, and my car done ran out of gas, and she said, and I was able to make it to the pump, and that's it. She said, but I'm sitting here and I don't have nothing, and I just looked at her, and I remembered a time where that was me. I remembered a time where I was at a gas station and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm out of gas and didn't have any money. And I had to ask somebody, excuse me, could you, give me something? I was going through a very rough time. And I could just empathize with how that feels as a woman, not to be able to provide. She was saying, I've been out here looking for work, and she was on assistance. And so while she was working, they was helping pay for childcare and things like that. But, so I just said, give me a minute or whatever, and I, was doing whatever I was doing. And then I went and I put my card in the pump, and I, turned on her pump, and I just said, fill it up. just fill it up. And I turned it and walked away. And I went back and was doing what I was doing. And she came back to me and she said, how could you do that? How could you don't know me. How could you just fill up my tank? And I said, because I remember a time when mine was empty.
Mm.
And that's how we have to think about the people and the relationships that we're in. How can you fill up their tank? Because you should be able to remember a time when yours was empty, when you were down and out, when you were sad, depressed, anxious, barely making it, barely getting by, barely getting through. And again, it doesn't mean that it's okay for that person to do you wrong, but you can understand it.
People don't get that. People think, well, what kind of angle you trying to get in me? No, I'm blessing you because I know mine.
Right. And just remember too that you're not perfect. And there was a time you hurt someone. Believe me. Because if you stand in front of my face and tell me I've never did nothing to nobody, I mean, I'm gonna just tell you that's the biggest lie you ever told. Everyone has hurt somebody. And so even if you develop love and for your self-love and you just created these wonderful boundaries and you live in your best life and you're happy and at peace and joy and you've decided that you're gonna stand by your boundaries, that's great. That's awesome. But don't not remember what that was like.
Come on.
To the point that you're going to hold on to hatred and anger because of what somebody did to you. No, you can release that and be free from that.
You can't preach a sermon to me. You ain't never been through nothing. I will never follow a leader. Ain't never been through nothing. How you going to lead me through something you ain't never been through nothing?
Yeah.
Now, so we got number one, practice empathy. Number two, ask yourself about the circumstance that may have led the other person to behave in such a manner. 3, reflect on the times when others have forgiven you. Number 4, and these is 5, I got 5 of them. Write in a journal, pray, and use guided meditation. That is so important when you are letting go, and you have to understand that you have to pray about it. You have to write things down. You have to meditate. You have to come into that space away from everyone, because it's hard for you to figure out things when everybody's in your ear.
Yeah.
If you constantly hear this person going through something and you constantly hearing other people saying, no, forget them, you got such a tug of war, a mental tug of war of dialogue, when sometimes you need to just be by yourself and, ask God to hey, talk to me, show me the way, show me what this person needs, show me this, because a lot of times we're making decisions off our gut feelings. Yeah. And I believe the Holy Spirit guides us, but sometimes we need to be quiet and we need to write in a journal so we can go back to the notes. Yeah. We need to pray. We need to use guided meditation.
Yeah. There are definitely steps, to take. I know we're getting down on time. I cannot believe this much time has gone past.
Right.
But I had another question that I wanted to address before we do leave today. What does it mean when you can't let go?
Okay, that ties into the number 5, where it says, beware that forgiveness is a process. Okay, well,
we see how we in sync.
Forgiveness is a process.
What's going on over here, y'all?
Forgiveness doesn't take all night. Forgiveness will take years sometimes. Forgiveness is a process.
Okay.
Sometimes people, when they say, and I want to make sure because I had that. What does it mean when you're not able to let go? When you're not able to let go, those memories become part of your story and work against you. Sometimes we choose to not want to let go of something, but they want to let go of us. Letting go of someone you love is harder when your feelings for them have changed. How many people have lived good lives beyond you? Mm-hmm. How many relationships have you lost because of the things you won't let go? How many of these things? When we look at things, we must understand that forgiveness is a process. And, most people want to be over something overnight.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Sometimes God will send you somebody to help you get over it. Sometimes God will isolate you for years away from people so that you can get over it. Sometimes it takes time away from it. But, it's a process. Therapy, it took me 3.5 years. to realize that I had to unlearn certain things, but I had to go through the process. Most people want everything microwavable. They have made it where they want it right now. Even the stories in the Bible, they have watered it down. Like when they talk about Christmas, where the wise men, they walked to see Jesus, they make it like it was a few days or a few weeks. No, it was 2.5 years. When you look at that they walk, when you look at what Jesus went through on the cross, and you look at all the agony and everything, it was a process. Everything is a process that will not take overnight. So when you can't let go of something, then it's not that you can't let it go. You're not out of your process.
I was thinking about this because I've gone through a period in my life where I just couldn't let go. And I wasn't even questioning it. Why couldn't I let that go? But once I started questioning it, once I started getting real with myself, and once I started journaling and trying to figure this thing called life out, in preparation for this show, I went back to some of my old journals, and I was looking through my journals, and I realized something very powerful as I was preparing for this show. When I was in a position, in a posture of not being able to let go, you know what I realized? I realized that hurt that I was feeling, the reason that I couldn't let go, because it became a part of my identity. The hurt became a part of who I was, literally. So I didn't know who I was without the wound. I didn't know who I was, and I'm talking real talk right now, because I know we all real people out here with real problems, and I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, and I'm not going to try to make it seem like I'm this perfect person, because I can stand before you today or sit before you today and talk about this because I've been through it, okay, and I've learned and come out on the other side of that, so I'm here to help. But I literally became that wound, and I tell people now, you're not weak because you're holding on. No, you're not weak because you're holding on. You just forgot that healing was your birthright too. You have a right to be healed. So you don't just own the problems and the mistakes and the negative things that we've been through. You also own the joy and the happiness. And sometimes letting go, just remembering that you're more than who hurt you. You're more than what hurt you. And I realized through my journaling experience that I grew to that place of learning and understanding that I was more than that I was valuable. And I didn't have to be the wound. And I didn't have to live a life of, identifying myself as hurt. Okay, so I was able to say, you know what? I'm going to let this go. I'm going to release myself. I'm going to be free and be at peace with this. So, yeah,
that's so powerful.
But the suffering is optional. How about that?
Pain happens and suffering is optional. The thing is that one of the things that I tell people all the time, you're not your was, and don't let people address you by your situation.
Yeah.
I am not my light bill. I am not my gas bill. I am not my car note. I am not the unfortunate situation I may be in.
Yeah. I'm not even what I've done. I'm not my mistakes.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I am who God says I am.
So, yeah, let's be clear, because letting go isn't always fast. It's not always, going to be easy, but it is a choice. It's a daily decision. And every day you get to choose peace over pain. Every single day. You can wake up in the morning and say, God, I choose peace over pain. God, I release this pain to you. Every day just speak life, into yourself and into your situation. Because if it's too heavy to carry, it's probably not yours to hold anymore. If it's destroying your life, it's probably time to put that thing down. You understand what I'm saying?
Ask Anita what I told her before this show. I told her she was going to take this show to another level because I'm telling you, because, we need to let go.
Yeah, the things we struggle with, the things we struggle to carry, it's not ours to carry anymore.
It's not.
Sis, bro, I give y'all permission today. Let it go. You can let it go. You don't have to carry it. Just put it on down, walk away.
And forgiveness
Yeah.
and letting go does not require reconciliation. You know, I knew you're sorry for what you did, but you did it. You know, you still got to face. God forgives you. You know, like when we think about Paul, when Paul was I forgot that place where he was, where they stoned him.
Yeah.
You know, they thought he was dead, but he got back up. But Paul was stoned. But if you recall, Paul was in the process of stoning others. So even though God forgave him, he still had to deal with circumstances. You know, if you know, somebody said something to me the other day that I put on Facebook. Somebody said to me, they're shocked because the bridges they burned to prove a point, they shocked at you for not swimming back to them to rebuild those bridges to them. I thought that was the greatest thing. They said they shocked.
Yeah.
Because most people burn bridges to prove a point because they know you're going to swim back to them and rebuild them bridges.
Yeah.
But right now, you can forgive them for building a bridge. You can bless them, wish them well. But then you keep going.
Yeah.
Because you cannot heal where you've been hurt at.
Yeah.
A part of forgiveness and letting go is to move on. I let go of every hurt, violation, betrayal, and rejection. And
Yeah.
that's powerful.
That's power and truth.
And now that you let it go, your life should reflect that.
And because you know what? You cannot write your next chapter, right? If your hands are still full of your last heartbreak.
Come on.
Right?
Ooh, you on fire.
You still holding on to the heartbreak, and you wondering why you can't move forward into the next chapter of your life. You still wondering why you can't find love. Why don't nobody want me? Why everybody walk away from me? You know, it just eludes you. It seems like it's right there and then it's gone. That's because you still carrying the weight of your old self and old expectations, old pain, old hurt, false sense of responsibility. You know, you don't have to take care of and take ownership of other people's problems. You get to let theirs be theirs and yours be yours. And you can only control what you have control over, which is you. You can't make somebody else be sorry they hurt you. You can't make them come and apologize to you. You can't make them change and be a better person. No, you only have control over yourself and how you think and feel and the actions that you're going to take or not take. So just continue on this path. Just keep thinking forward, 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 you know, and just letting go. If you just feel like your heart broke, if you laying out on the floor crying for days at a time, that's too much. It's too much. You don't have to carry that.
And next week we're going to be really talking. Next week we're going to be talking about how do you rebuild after devastation. You've been hurt. You lost everything. You know, there are some people who have built wealth and lost it and built it again. How do some people been hurt and you know, and I know Aaliyah, I you know, Facebook friend, yeah. she been on you welcome on the show. You welcome. You want to join us next week? You welcome.
You got any we getting down? You got any closing?
I got closing remarks.
Because I do too.
You know, but you go ahead. I mean, you on fire, and you know what? You can take my time for the closing remarks because
yeah, this is powerful, y'all.
You on fire. Go ahead.
You know, I just want to say that if anything we said today makes you pause, makes you think, you know, I want to invite you to ask yourself this question. What am I still carrying that's no longer serving me? I'm going to say it again. Somebody put that in the chat. What am I still carrying that's no longer serving me? Because letting go is not about the person who hurt you. It's about making space for the peace that you deserve. Okay. So I just want to say one of my affirmations that I say is I am worthy of healing, peace, and the kind of love that doesn't hurt to hold. So if you're holding on to love that hurts, let it go. Because You deserve and you're worthy of healing, peace, and the kind of love that doesn't hurt to hold.
And you all need to share this show. Please like, share, love on your page. My comments are the same 5 that are, you have to have empathy. When you look at somebody, the thing is you don't want to get stuck.
Yeah.
Too many people get stuck in forgiveness and letting go. You got to practice empathy. You got to always, give person the benefit of the doubt. Then when it comes to people, ask yourself about the circumstance that may have led to the other person to behave in such a way. You know what I mean? If you're mad at me, let's get to the root of it. If you're hurting, whatever it is, some of you all are too big for your circles. That's why God got you isolated. And people don't get that. God got you isolated because you're too big for your circles. You keep choosing down. He ain't gonna let you go down because he got what you're up. Third, reflect the times when people forgave you. Somebody blessed me, I'm gonna bless you. And anything that somebody would do for me, I have an obligation to do for them, for somebody else. And that's how you create a chain of great people. Is I bless you, you bless somebody, they bless somebody, and next thing you know, you have a nation that's blessed. When we also look at it, you need to journal stuff down. You need to write stuff down. You need to pray. You need to meditate. You need to take time out before you respond. My grandmother used to always tell me, God rest her soul, never let somebody rush you to speak. Because once it's released, the damage is going to be done or the blessing is going to be given. Powerful. So never relax. So, whatever we going through, and if I say, let me take a few minutes to stop, then we're going to take a few minutes to stop. We can come back to it. Because, some you lose best friends that way because you won't let it go. Let's come back and talk about it with cooler heads. And last, understand that forgiveness is a process. That's the most important thing to me, because everything doesn't happen overnight. Relationships don't get great overnight. People don't fall in love overnight. Wealth is not attainable life. Salvation is a process. So we got to understand that when you say that you just can't forget something, it's because you're not done with the process.
Right. And remember, it's a process, not a personality trait, right?
Or a race.
Right.
Because if you give me that, because, you got to think about something. Me and Anita both know how to get to the studio. I got here a certain time. She got here a certain time. I got here a certain way. She got here a certain way. But guess what? We were here at 12:30 on the same show at the same time, blessing you.
Coming from two totally different perspectives, two totally different viewpoints, two totally different mindsets, two totally different life experiences and backgrounds. But we're here together, working through this process because we've done the work. And we know what it takes to move forward, and we know that it's possible. If we ever just did a show on everything either one of us all been through, you would wonder how we sitting here looking this good. And because we shouldn't be.
Right. And last thing, stop being so hard on yourself.
Yeah, forgiveness doesn't mean you're weak.
If God forgave you,
to protect your energy.
Come on. If God forgave you, forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Because you are the liaison on how people gonna treat you.
Yeah.
If I walk in your house and you got garbage all over the floor, I ain't walking to the garbage can. I'm throwing it on the floor. That's what everything on your, you know what I mean? So, and I'm just joking. But what I'm saying is that stop being so hard on yourself.
Yeah, give yourself permission to be free.
You survived it.
Yeah.
And then look at your life and see how many people that died in the same circumstances you were in, and you here today.
Yeah. And you get to do it at your own pace.
You do it at your own pace.
Look, can nobody make him speak when he's not ready to speak, or when he knows something unkind is going to come out of his mouth? This is not a race. You can take it at your own pace, and what I say is grow through letting go. Somebody type that in there. Grow through letting go, because it's a growth process, and it is a process.
And another thing is that your process is your process. And if it works for you, it works for you. Stop trying to explain to people how you do what you do. You know what I mean? Because it ain't gonna work for everybody. God didn't give everybody the vision. It wasn't a conference call. Everybody don't understand your ability. Sometimes I'm a big fan of my co-host. I don't see how she do what she do. This lady always busy. She is she blesses everybody everywhere. I don't even listen. I need a double. I need a stunt double because I can't do it. But she does that, and that's what it is. But nobody does as well as she does. And just like nobody does what you do as well.
Thank you, Aaliyah.
Grow through letting go. So we thank you guys for tuning in to Solutions Radio Show. Definitely tune in next week. Yes. What we talk about, that's going to be one, because, we're talking about starting over.
Yes.
After you done had the wind, the life knocked out of you.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about making space for the peace you deserve.
Making space for the peace you deserve. That's going to be upcoming shows, right?
Yeah, you can also find us on Facebook, the New Solutions or Solutions Radio Show on Facebook, on YouTube. You can hit us up on our personal pages. If there's topics you want to talk about, let us know.
And the 19th, y'all, all the that look at 19th, we're going to have one of the top chefs in the world, pastry chefs. She's going to have everything in here, including alcohol cupcakes. But I got to clear it from the thing. So it's going to be awesome. So love you guys. Remember, be the change you're looking for and be the change that you desire to see. Love you guys. We'll see you next week.
Love you. Let go and grow.
Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio app today. You can also say, Alexa, play WVTC Radio Skills.
Would you like to play WVTC Radio Network?
Absolutely. Download it today.
Views made on the preceding program are not those of WVTC Radio, iNetworks Communications, or their financial supporters.
Winning victory through Christ, WVTC Allsip Chicago, and iNetworks Communications Station.